Okay, off we go. Over to you, Mike.
Excellent. Welcome along, everyone, to our first sales surgery workshop or webinar, mini webinar. Today's topic is overcoming fear of failure in sales. So the first section is going to be really rapid in terms that I'm going to deliver some various points. Arthur will be flicking through the slideshow as and when it's needed. So we want to move to the first one now. Arthur, that'd be fantastic. And essentially what we'll be doing is going through a lot of content to begin with, but please jot down your questions and we'll cover those in the second part. So fear of failure in sales, and the reason why we've started with this topic is that a lot of our members and a lot of people I deal with in sales training have a lot of called hang-ups. They get anxious, or they get nervous, or a bit stressed out when it comes to sales. So the main question that you want to ask is, if you do feel like that going into a sale, how is that going to affect your results? And it's a really important question to ask because a lot of times in sales training, we talk a lot about the techniques and the strategies and the skills that are required to become a sales professional. Yet there's very little emphasis placed on the stuff that you bring into it, all the baggage. We've all got baggage. I've got a lot. I mean, we've all got different types of baggage, but particularly as it relates to sales. And if we're not clear on how we can overcome this core baggage, then essentially it really does affect our results. And there's two words that I want to talk about just now, and it relates back to how it does it affect your results. And those two words are reflective consciousness. So I'm sure there's people out there who have heard of this, and if you have not heard of it, it's reflective consciousness is essentially it's the mirror concept. Is that what you see in others, you see in yourself, and our external world is a reflection of our internal world. And this is a really important concept to grasp as it relates to sales, because often what we are internalizing, we actually project onto the world and onto others, and particularly in a sales environment, we often project that onto our prospects. And so it's important to understand where this stuff is coming from. And so, for example, if you're feeling sad, and take it out of the sales context just for a moment, if you are feeling sad, what you'll often notice is the sad things around you. That's what the concept of reflective consciousness is about. As I said earlier, often we look to go external to solve the internal, but what we need to be doing is to look at the internal first. And you have to look at where does this fear or where does this anxiety come from? And more often than not, it comes from the fear of, number one, failure, or number two, of rejection. Fear of failure or rejection. And when we talk about rejection, we have to look at it that, why do we actually feel rejection? And there's two main reasons behind it. Number one is that rejection implies that you want something. There's a desire there. There's something missing. So you're longing for something, you're searching for something, yet you don't have that in your life. So when you go to chase it and then you don't get it, you feel disappointed. Okay, so that's the main point. Number two is that we've also created over our previous history throughout our lives, we've created a long experience and long history of negative experiences associated to rejection. So your perception of objection basically is lopsided. If you imagine a scale, it's completely lopsided. And so one of the things you really want to start to focus on, and what we can cover in the Q&A section, is that how do you actually balance that out? What can you do to balance out the scale so that you build more positive experiences as it relates to rejection? And so that's the main point that I want to emphasize there, is that you need to really build a collection of positive experiences that are related to balancing out the negative side, the negative associations that you have to rejection.
One of the things is that when you get people, when you get into a sales situation and you're getting people to a point and they don't commit, it gives you huge feelings of frustration and sense of failure.
Yes.
I mean, how can you overcome that? What can you do to overcome that feeling of frustration and failure as a consequence of people saying no?
Got it. Okay. So great question, Carol. And this is one of the blessings and the curses of being in the sales industry. Is that sales to a large extent is if you measure it just purely on results, it can be a zero-sum game. Okay. And what I mean by that is that if you are measuring your success purely by I made the sale or I didn't, I successfully converted a client or I didn't, then it can be a really tough game to play. because I know that you're in your industry, Carol, you're selling higher end property, luxury property around the world. And if anyone's interested in property in the Caribbean, I can highly recommend Carol's products and services. I know a bunch of people who've bought the products; they're amazing. But in that example, you're going to you'll have a lot of people who say no to you. You just have to understand that from the outset, right? But so what you need to do, and what all salespeople need to do, is you need to start looking at how you rate yourself on a range of different scales. You want to be able to create like a scorecard of how you can assess yourself on multiple levels, so that sales becomes more than just a zero-sum game. Otherwise, I get what you mean, Carol. It can be very deflating. You're like, and even what you're talking about, Minnie, you talk about, yes, I've prepared myself, I've done this, and then I get to the end and, no, okay, I failure. And then you can walk out of there saying, oh, I failed, I've not succeeded. But if you, instead of walking out there going, oh, guess what? Okay, of all these 10 areas, you know what? I improved very well there, proved very well, and I did well there, and I did well here. And, oh, wow, although I didn't get the sale, you know what? I've improved. Well done, Mike, or well done, Carol. And by doing that, there's multiple techniques that I can suggest for that, which you can do. But really, you want to start in a nutshell. What you want to do is you want to analyze before the game. You want to prepare yourself. You want to analyze and take notes during the sales appointment, even record it if you can, and then you want to review it afterwards. And that's some of the philosophies here. Actually, Ripple Effect Sales Training Program is our whole focus is about learn, apply, review. Learn, apply, review. Particularly in sales, the review section is the most critical, and it's one of the steps that so many people miss out. Often they go to a workshop and they go, oh, great, here you go. Here's some content and information. And the salesperson is expected to go out there, implement it to their own sales environment, and then they're supposed to review it themselves, which is really tough as a salesperson to be able to do that. So we've created an environment where that happens, but if you don't have that, then I'd strongly recommend you create that sort of environment yourself.
What's a one word? No, all right. One sentence answer to the question that what's the best way to overcome fear in the presentation? Like you're in there and you're,
Great question. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. 2 words. Oh, actually 1 word. Purpose. Connect to your why. Whenever you feel fearful, and one of the things I didn't really focus too much in the content delivery, which I meant to, is that whenever you're focusing on fear and everything, just realize and understand that's about you. That is about you. Yeah. Sales isn't about you. The root word of the word sales is selye, which is the Nordic root of the word, and the word selye actually means to serve.
It's superb. Thank you. Here's another question, quick one, and I reckon you can answer this one just as quickly. Speaking about my business and asking for money. I mean, that's a huge one, isn't it? Asking for money. Yep. It's a big hurdle.
Yep. Okay. There's a number of streams I could go down onto this, but the one that I think will have the biggest impact for who asked that question? Arthur, do you know?
That came from Maria, actually. Maria, she's not here with us right now, but that was a great. Well, yeah.
Okay.
It's a classic one, isn't it?
Thanks for sticking around, Nick. At the end of the day, the money concept is number one. That's all the stuff that you're taking into the call. So what I would suggest is that you collapse that by writing out a long list of all the benefits of why your service is worth 5 times that amount.
So that's it really, Mike, isn't it? That wraps it up. I think you've done a fantastic summary presentation of this huge subject of fear and how to handle fear and how to overcome fear in sales. It's a big subject. Do you want to just finish with a couple of words?
But yeah, just a quick summary of everything is I think that the more that you get your focus off yourself and onto why you're doing this in the first place and the clients, you'll see a big shift of how you overcome fear, because you have to understand that fear is all about the stuff that's going on in your world. And once you overcome that and you realize and recognize that, there's a lot of techniques and strategies which we can teach you to overcome that. But fundamentally, if you just make that little shift from focusing off yourself and onto others, that'll have a huge impact to your results. And you can start to enjoy it more. You can have lots of fun enjoying it.
Great.